rock music. Love it or hate it? Why is that? Coming up. Welcome back to Being Todd. This was recently the Learn About Music channel, but it shifted over here a couple weeks ago. And on this channel, we try to help you, the musician, try to help you so that you can grasp some of those things that might be eluding you about why your musicianship isn't getting better, why your band isn't becoming better. We talk about those things, and I give you my perspective from where I've come from as a musician over the years. But today we're going to talk about one of those topics that I think that there's some generations and just some people in general who are like, rock music, I just don't get it. So why is it that you like a certain type of music anyway? What is it about rock music that makes people like it? And really it's a bigger question. What is it about any music that makes you like it? And that'll help us with understanding rock music. Well, there's lyrical content, the feel of it. There's the power of it, the sweetness of the melodies. These are all things in all music. There are also so many elements, but today we're going to hack away at rock music. Now, I started to listen to rock music and pop music when I was in elementary school. And I had a radio like other kids, and so you were influenced by the kids around you. And there was a couple of artists that stood out. Strange, I liked John Denver. I liked the Beach Boys, so I liked melody. And then about midway through my grade school years, I got a stereo with my first couple of records. It was John Denver's Greatest Hits and the Kansas Leftoverture. Two radically different albums for sure, but I fell in love with both of them for very different reasons. John Denver had an amazing voice that was clean, and he communicated emotion that matched with the songs that he sang. Kansas, on the other hand, was prog music and complex and filled with inspiring performances, power, and perfect execution. So as I started school, I was playing classical music, jazz music, and then through junior high and high school, I was playing in rock bands. Now, it seemed to me that there was really nothing off limits. There was some music I thought was, what you would call noise, but that's pretty normal for everybody. Everybody hears certain things and they're like, bleh. Everybody has music that they don't prefer or even hate. And I think that music falls into the category of songs that are just not relatable to certain groups of people for many, many reasons. So we're going to take a look at rock music. And in rock music, in 2020, there is a very broad area of what we would call rock music. It contains much of the popular music we hear, as well as much as some other kinds of things. But we're going to focus here is about what we would call straight guitar-based rock music that evolved into heavier rock music in the 80s. So what is the appeal of this music? Screeching guitars, pounding drums, the singer screaming, ah! Jumping around like maniacs on stage. What was the appeal? Well, rock music and harder rock music has been based around defiance and fighting back against the man, being independent of the mainstream, defiance. So I know many people who don't have a defiant bone in their body. They don't fall into that category. They don't have anything they need to be defiant against. So this might be Greek to some people when they hear this defiant message. So for many, during the early years of the 60s and 70s, there were songs that talked about fighting back, freedom from society, or just being rowdy and having a good time. Pop music during the 60s was pretty clean when you think about some of the Motown things, some of the pop singers, and it had happy. And many youths just couldn't relate to that at all. So the standard rhythm section of guitar, bass, and drums is merged as an alternative to larger groups with like horns and strings and nice, pretty stuff. So the simplicity of having it and having these young people playing these instruments and jumping around while doing it was proof that young people had their own kind of music. Groups like the Beatles were the soundtrack for many youths with themes that connected with young people. Elvis had Hound Dog, which many thought was terrible. There's an unacceptable type of person, a hound dog. Ugh. So, if the lyrics to some of these defiant songs were set to nice light melodies today, like string quartets and that kind of thing, we may not even have seen rock music emerge. So the lyrical content really was a guiding force for the sound of the music that followed with that. Along with this also was the introduction of the electric guitar. It opened up a whole new world. It was a relatively inexpensive instrument, and it was pretty easy to learn, so lots of young people started to learn it. And with the songs of defiance and protest and angst, guitar players started to figure out how to get heavier and meaner and angrier sounds out of the guitar. Huge, powerful sounds that matched the lyrics or the screams of the singer. Wow, I mean, really wow. For me, as a young man, I was blown away by these incredible sounds that the guitar made. Walls of sound that made my teeth shake. Bass that cut through my soul. So for me, that was a big piece of it. The power conveyed by the instruments in the group. That power met my need as a young man to bang my fist on the table, to get out that aggression that I felt. When I would play guitar, certain sounds would just move me in a huge way. My cousin Keith introduced me to Def Leppard the summer after I graduated from high school. You know, I was going to be going to music school in the fall, and I'd already begun to be a bit of a snob in the music world, and I was listening to jazz and classical. Then I heard the song Foolin'. Me and Keith are driving around in Kansas City in his convertible, and that song just had something about it. And Keith was so enthusiastic about it. It just shook me, and it changed and introduced me to different types of music. Many other people feel that way. And I know in many instances of songs that I have loved that song, but I really couldn't even understand the lyrics except for the title, and the allure of the song was how the instruments communicated to me. I can't tell you how many Van Halen songs were that way for me. David Lee Roth was not an inspired lyricist. His lyrics were awful, but the heaviness of the songs really connected with me. So, the heaviness of a song, the lyrical content, the flashiness of how the bands played, these were elements that fans, mostly young people, connected to. And this isn't necessarily much different than really any other forms of music. So when we talk about appreciation of a style of music, it's often started with one interest, or you like one part of the music, and then we get used to the other elements. So take for example, Beethoven's Fifth. If you sit in the middle of a string section during the intro, man, that is so heavy. Listen to this. Yeah, that is so heavy. And then we turn to something similar to like it, like turn up the radio, and it's heavy, but it's in a different setting. Listen to this. So, heavy, but in a completely different setting. And so, often we will get attached to certain melodies and something that catch our ear, and we'll become more interested in listening to it for that very reason. You know, and with more and more artists creating music, there became a wider variety and more styles within that rock umbrella, so each fan could take whichever way they wanted to go towards. So myself, I like a wide variety of rock music, but it's eclectic. You know, I like some harder rock, artists like Metallica, like that intro from Sandman. Awesome. Love it. But I also liked other bands like the Eagles. It was more of a country rock type of group. And then bands like Boston, who had these anthemic, huge sounding guitars. I mean, just some great sounding stuff. So each of these bands, they reach me for different reasons. And there's only a few bands I like what everything they do, like the band Rush. I play me anything, I like all their music. What am I getting at? Well, what I'm getting at is that we collect songs that we like, that we relate to. Doesn't matter what the style is, and they take us somewhere. They end up being the soundtrack of our lives, of our youth, when we first get married, when all these things happen. And all of these pieces of music tend to be my escape, probably for you too. So they might be an escape or a release or a happy place. But isn't that what music does? It takes us somewhere, on a journey or an adventure in our mind. Rock music does that for some people. So I'm not sure that I made a case for the reason some people are fans of rock music, but I hope I have made a case for why I gravitate towards the style of rock music on a lot of occasions. So if you're new to this channel here, this is being Todd, and I really appreciate you being here. If you liked the video today, please hit the like button, and I really want to hear from you. What is it about rock music that makes you gravitate towards there? Is it one of the things I've talked about, or is there something in your mind that you say, no, you're missing it, Todd? I want to hear from you and want to know what you think about it. So let me know what you think, and until next time, rock on.